Welcome back to News at Prime Time for some business now. While business liquidation figures out of Statistics South Africa show some decline in businesses shutting down, over 500 businesses have been liquidated this year alone. Our business reporter Ntokozo Khumalo tallied the numbers and put together this report.
South African businesses are struggling to keep their doors open despite figures out of Stats SA showing a decline in business liquidations. The total number of liquidations fell by 12.8% in the first 4 months of the year compared to the same period last year.
Still over that 4-month period, I think there are about 523 liquidations in total. So when we look at what drives a liquidation, it's important to note that a liquidation is it has a lagging effect. These statistics aren't indicative of the environment as we are experiencing it.
Absa's corporate and investment banking senior economist Peter Worthington agrees and adds that aside from load shedding, there are several challenges businesses have faced and are still recovering from.
We've in South Africa had a number of other pretty big shocks as well. We've had riots, we've had floods, we've had force majeure from Transnet, we've had the Russian invasion of Ukraine and what that did to commodity prices, food prices, oil prices, pushing up fuel costs and the like. So I think businesses have really had to deal with an awful lot over the last couple of years.
He says it is curious that we are not seeing an increase in business liquidations as we continue to face sluggish growth that is troublesome for businesses to operate in. Buchet Blom, a principal at the CFO Center that assists businesses to stay on top of their financial health, says business owners must be proactive to protect themselves from even getting to the point of liquidation.
Being informed how your financials look at your market, being informed what is your financing conditions in your financing contracts, being informed the cost of living, your wage bill, all of those factors play a role.
He further states that the cost of a business liquidation is more than just numbers.
It's owner-managed businesses. You're talking about people, you need to talk about retrenchment of people and so forth. So those are difficult answers. The actual cost of the liquidator and so forth, it's quite a lot. 10% of fixed assets, in that liquidation process, the destruction of value. But yes, I think it's more a mental decision for the board members, a mental decision for that business owner, business operator. How do I go around in these difficult decisions?
Experts say it's also important to look at business rescue figures that Stats SA does not offer on detail. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Ntokozo Khumalo in Midrand.
Well, that report from our business anchor, reporter Ntokozo Khumalo, highlighting the grim situation when it comes to South Africa's current business environment. Many businesses remain under pressure, with Stats SA saying more than 100 businesses were liquidated last month. Now, to reflect on these numbers and provide some guidance on how small businesses can get relief when they're in a tight spot, we're joined by the CEO of the Small Enterprise Finance Agency, Xolisi Majamba. Xolisi, when we look at the tough situation and a tough environment that businesses are operating under, where can they find relief, especially in terms of funding?
Thank you, Matteo. Look, for us, particularly in the small business space, that is the area where we really would like to provide guidance and assistance to businesses, particularly those that are facing the challenges. As you are aware, and the previous speakers have actually properly articulated it, the global economic slowdown, the geopolitical challenges induced by the Ukraine-Russia what we call conflict, and also domestically the challenges of load shedding have really put a lot of pressure on some of the businesses. And I can give you an example. In our case, a number of our businesses have realized a reduction in operating hours, where business was used to operating for 8.5 hours, and now they find themselves having to operate for about 4 hours. That has left their productivity levels and, by extension, their profitability. And we saw even our collections rates as a fund of SMMEs dropping to around 35 and 45% from 85%. And when we actually conducted a SNAP survey, trying to establish some of the reasons why these businesses were struggling, one of the key challenges was really these global, what we call, challenges that we face, but also this low economic growth, and in the main, the question of load shedding is really hitting our SMMEs hard. And in our regard, we came up with a number of interventions whereby we give the SMMEs in our book a payment break, so that we give them a breather. And also coupled with that, we also restructured their debt, whereby we extend the repayment terms and periods so that the installments to service the debt are reduced. And in the next month, the Minister of Small Business will be launching what we call the power purchase product, where we're looking now at providing power backup for our businesses, particularly those that are struggling to remain operating during the shutdown periods. Because what we want really for starters to save our book, we want our clients to continue operating at least for that 8 hours a day. So we bring up a multitude of those interventions. And I've seen some of the banks in the commercial space have come up with some of the power backup products like ABSA, and we are actually encouraging other private sector players to really support the small businesses, even the ones that are medium-sized.
And Police, when we look at those businesses suffering the effects of load shedding, how big is your purse in terms of CFA and these special programs that you're talking about? How much have you budgeted to help out small businesses?
Look, for us, we're struggling, as you are aware, that we get our money from the fiscus, the funding. And as I said to you, our collections rate has dropped. And that drop in collections has really squeezed our cash flows as a funder. And also remember, when you give payment holidays to your clients, it actually diminishes your cash flows. And also when you extend and restructure these transactions, you also minimize your cash flow. So we're trying to play that balancing act. And what the minister is proposing is that for clients that are based in rural and township spaces, we will try to pilot a budget of about 200 million. And then for those clients that are based in urban areas, we're going to set aside about 220 million. This is money that we actually getting from our own internal savings as an entity.
And
so
with
it's not
that
a big
money,
test.
Policy, just quickly as we run out of time, the requirements that commercial bankers have are quite stringent, but you're talking about rural areas, businesses in the township that some of them are informal. How do you make sure then you bring them on, formalize them, and make sure they stand up to your requirements?
Look, we are much more flexible than your commercial banks with regards to the conditions that we put for accessing funding for our SMMEs.